Boink. There we go. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited that you are tuning in today to our Louisiana Film Prize 2020 class of nominated actors for best performance. It has been an incredible festival so far. We are on day 9 out of 10. We have a lot of things still going on today. Right now, also going on is Music Prize. So once you jump off of this at the end of our hour together, go to prizefest.com and check out the Music Prize bands. There are 10 bands playing today that are vying for $1,000 cash. So don't miss out on that as well. But right now we are here together to celebrate and discuss the performances of these 8 nominees for best performance. So I thought we might start with a brief introduction for everyone. And since the Zoom has put it in this order, we're going to start with Thomas. Thomas, tell us who you are, where you're from, and what film you're with.
Hey, glad I get to go first. Have fun. Thomas Johnston. I was in the film Vouet, and I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Thank you. Garrett.
So my name is Garrett Krudoff. I was in the film 3 Mile Hell, and I'm from a little town 20 miles north of Shreveport called Mooringsport, Louisiana.
Fantastic. Escalante. Escalante, if you'll have to unmute yourself there. Sorry about that.
Oh, fine. Escalante Lundy, New Orleans, and I was in the film A Cry for Help.
Thank you. Dexter.
Hey, I'm Dexter Duran. I'm from Shreveport, Louisiana, and I was in the film Find Her.
Alex.
Hello, my name's Alexander Jeffrey. I'm originally from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I now live in Shreveport, Louisiana, and I was in Double Date Night.
Thank you. Cam.
I'm Cam Owen, originally from Minden, Louisiana, but I'm currently residing in New Orleans, and the title of my film is Inapplicable.
Aaron.
Hey, I'm Aaron Williams, originally from Gulfport, Mississippi, but live in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So I was in the film Imminent.
Thank you. And Jerome.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I am Jeroen Frank Kalis. I'm from Amsterdam originally, but have been living in Shreveport for a couple of years, and I was in the film Away.
Fantastic. You know, I wanted to start off with kind of a general observation and then maybe beginning into some questions. One of the things that we talked about in the last panel was this, this concept of perspectives. All of the films were in that panel were really heavy on characters who had a certain perspective that was trying to be conveyed to the audience. And one of the things that we see in a lot of these films with the acting crew is a struggle to accomplish something that they've set out to do, and they've run into an obstacle or a speed bump. And so maybe what we could do is start with Thomas and talk about the character and the turn, the twist that's there as you are kind of bringing out who you are.
Okay, so it's kind of like the film is kind of up for interpretation, I guess. And there's a lot of, and I like to hear people's like, oh, did this happen? Or was this it? Or was that it? So it's a little ambiguous as far as that goes, but there's definitely an ultimate sacrifice that the character's making at the expense of the woman he loves. What that is, I have my idea and other people have their ideas. So, but I kind of like that open-ended, I don't know, it's like trauma or question in the movie where you can kind of fill in the blank. So I think that if I had to put a tagline on it, it would be the ultimate sacrifice for the one you love.
So when you were approached by Christine to work on this project, I understand you guys were working on a different project entirely. What was the process of being approached, and how were you able to kind of get into this incredibly intense character in such a short period of time?
Okay. I had just met Christine because we were working on a triple feature actually. And then she texted me maybe a couple hours after we met, and I had a beard, the beard that was she was like, hey, do you want to do a short film? I was like, yes. Didn't ask what it was about or anything because we had one day off every week. So then, you know, she kind of told me the mindset of the character that I needed to be in. So for me to feel comfortable doing what I was doing with other people standing on the other side of the camera, like, are you okay? You don't, you know, what I did was the first time I went in, acting like I was a cat. I was like, you just want me to come in and just roar and just like raging? Yes, absolutely. So I walk in, I was like, you know, add a little levity and everybody cracked up. We had fun. So like the next time it was so easy because I kind of broke that barrier and felt more comfortable with everyone because now we're loose. Now we're having fun. So from then on, it was kind of easier. It was just basically how angry or how fierce can I be without kind of cracking and making it look inauthentic, you know? So I don't know if it was tough or not. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely tough, but I just hope it played well, you know? I mean, yeah. I think I did okay.
I think, yeah, you did a great job. And, you know, turning to Garrett, you know, talking about, you know, tough roles, you know, I remember a quote from you when you were at a, you know, previous film prize where you said, you know, I don't do shorts. And Christine had brought you in to do a film, Shakespeare on the Range, that you really sunk your teeth into, also got an acting nomination there for that as well. Why return to the short format? Is that something that's appealing to you now, or was it this particular story?
I didn't mean to sound like come off pretentious or anything by saying I don't do shorts, but mainly I don't have time usually to commit to the shorts because I'm a working actor and I do work on a lot of, you know, series and do recurring roles, and so my schedule usually doesn't allow. But also a lot of times the offers that I get are not necessarily characters. They're stuff that I've done before or I've done for production. So I really look for things that are like unique. And like you said, so I can really kind of sink my teeth into and really have a character. And originally when Jeremy Enos had approached me, he had actually wanted me to play the role that John Chambers played. And when I read the script, I went, man, I just really think this white man is such a much more complex character. And I think he was looking at the dialogue and thinking that would be the attraction. But I thought, nah, there's just something there's something I'm drawn to with the character. And I really think I can do something special with it. And he said, I just want you to be part of the project if you'll do it. Yeah, you can do that. And I said, I love the script. I thought it was super interesting. I knew I was in capable hands. So I knew the project would turn out to be something that was great. So just really, I liked everything about it. I liked the crew that was involved. I mean, I think that's so much of like, when I say I don't do shorts, there's a lot of factors that go into me deciding whether I'm going to do one. And this one just hit like all the notes. And of course I'm very encouraging to other actors to do shorts and I mean, I'm my students, you know, I have an acting studio here for people that don't know. And I'm a big supporter of the prize and telling them like to get out there and do those. And I was just lucky in a way that the pandemic was here and our series went on a break in March. And so when they came to me, I had the time to do it and really enjoyed working with them. So.
Absolutely. Escalante, you know, one of the things that is challenging about this time, and it certainly has, you know, taken on a lot of meaning, the film, you know, more than maybe when it was first written, the social challenges that are there and the representation challenges, especially when you're thinking about a film where you're working with creatives who have written roles for someone of a different race. Did you find that the script was ready to go when you were in there? Were there dialogues that took place with the director or the writer, Shanna, or was it something that just really worked and they really understood like out of the gate?
The interesting thing about this script, Shanna came to me in December. So that was 2019, and she had this idea of this project. So we started working on it, but she was the writer. And then we started, I guess, planning to do this. And we had another team that was going to be the DP and director, and they had to pull out at the last minute. And Steve Estep came aboard. And it was kind of, are we going to get this thing done? And the interesting thing is the original director and DP scheduled to do this film the last free weekend we had before the pandemic hit. And we were going to do it in April. They scheduled it in March because they had another business. So it kind of came to place. But as far as the actual piece, it's interesting that the rest of the hello.
I think
Hello?
You're there.
I got disconnected for some reason.
We can still see and hear you.
Okay. Yeah, the screen blacked out. But anyway, the idea of the film happened before a lot of the things happened in the United States with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and the guy Arbery, and then COVID. All this stuff happened, but we had the film was already written before all this happened, so it kind of was like right place, right time, you know. Yeah. So this was not this. We didn't think about this after this happened. This was 2019 when we thought about this. And as far as the script was already done, so it wasn't like we had to adjust to the current times to anything. Now, once we got on set, there was some minor changes we did because certain things felt more right, and depending on the location you're shooting at, depending on what you have, the resources you have available, you make some changes. But what you see is basically what we had planned. Some like Thomas was also in our film also, and his scene, I didn't know it was going to be that intense. And you actually seen the film he was in, you understand. Now I see what we got. I didn't realize when I first met Thomas, like this nice little meek guy, and then we did this scene when if you saw the scene as entirely, Thomas would have went to jail that day. With him and Rachel together, because it's funny, they did this love scene, and then in our movie he almost beat her to death. So that part was not planned. That was probably the only thing in the film that was not planned. But as far as the concept, that Shannon came to me December last year, so everything just kind of fell into place. It was apropos for the times, so it wasn't anything that we had to adjust to.
Yeah, I mean that's serendipitous, and what a
yeah.
that you guys could tell the story the way you did when you were able to.
Yes.
Dexter, you have the challenge of being a writer, director, actor, and I'm interested to know, partially because you've told me before, but what was it like working with your family as an actor, where you are? I don't mean necessarily a director relationship, because we've talked about that before, but as an actor, when you are trying to get into the situation where you're kind of, spoiler alert, kind of hunting down a member of your family, there's got to be something hard to draw on there, or is there? Is she just like a little monster that you've got to like go get, or tell us about that relationship.
Well, it was the other day when we had our panel with actor Kevin Rahm. I got the chance to talk to him about shifting hats from spending so much time and energy writing and directing to having to, okay, I've been in director mode, all day, and now it's time to take that hat off and put actor hat on and just start shooting. It was difficult, or at least in the moment it felt difficult, but he actually kind of helped me understand that I was very fortunate in that I kind of got to cheat with what I did, because he said that when you're just an actor, you have to hope that you're capturing the vision of the writer and the director, and you're hoping there's that open line of communication, where I kind of was able to already have that information. I knew exactly why I'd written the character. I knew my own direction, and so when it was time to go into mode to do whatever I needed to do and interact with the cast, I already knew exactly what I wanted to do. My hope was just that it would translate on camera, having very little experience with it. As far as working with my children, it was kind of a blessing and a curse, because one, they're my kids. So, I can tell them exactly what I want to tell them, like, hey, that was pretty bad. Let's change it up and do this. But at the same time, they're also my kids. So there's only so much listening they want to do to their dad during the day. Especially, there's a penultimate scene, kind of a flashback towards the end of the film, where my daughter Allison, has to work really hard to convince the audience that she's, for lack of a better word, possessed. And she worked. I mean, we had shot something earlier in the day, and I made sure, because I knew that was going to be a night scene, and it was going to be like 11 p.m. when we started shooting. So we did kind of an early scene around 9 o'clock in the morning and stopped around 12 or 1. And then I gave them the rest of the day off, go home, relax, have fun, play, take a nap, whatever you want to do. But just understand that, like, at around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, we're going to get ready. We're going to go over to the set, and then we're just going to work all night. And that was their first chance doing that. And so it was fun for them. I have a lot of, footage, outtakes and stuff of her, being restrained and kind of just laughing, and my DP and everybody on set, it's all the mood's really light. The tone of that scene is very serious, but when we yell cut, we're all laughing, we're all having fun, but we're all really, really tired at the same time. And so the interaction with her was really just, all right, I need you to do this for Dad, please. And that was great. Just give me a little more here, a little less here. And I'm just going to try and react to what you're doing. And I know that scene, I was exhausted, and any of my lines in that scene, I look exhausted, and it wasn't acting. I was exhausted. And I'm glad that it translated. I remember when I was in editing, when I was talking with one of my producers, I said, I look like I'm not giving a performance here. I'm just tiredly reciting my lines. He goes, no, it totally works. You look like you're a dad who's been up all day with a crazy child, and you're just exhausted and you don't have anything left to give. And I'm like, oh, good. That's exactly what I wanted. And then as far as the rest of the performance, as far as just being the kind of shut off, emotionally isolated individual, it was really just all of the frustration of having to do the directing and everything else, and trying to make sure, the 1,000 pieces are in place, that when it was time to act frustrated, I didn't have to act. I was just frustrated. I was just able to say, here are my lines. And
you heard it here first, folks. Dexter didn't have to act.
No, it was, and the animosity between me and my fiance Erin, I mean, that was genuine. She and I had been butting heads all week, because she's trying to get, as an actress, she's trying to understand what it is she wants to do, and I'm like, doing my first film, and I'm like, hang on, we'll get to that. I gotta do this. I gotta get the set right. We'll get to it. And so she's frustrated with me, and when it's time to go action, she just like points it all in my direction, and I just point it all right back at her, and so we're just butting heads, and everybody's holding the camera going, is this what's happening? But hopefully it worked. I think it did. So
yeah, it comes across for sure. I want to jump over to the non-actor, quote unquote, of the group, Alexander Jeffrey. You obviously have been behind the camera a number of times, not just for Film Prize, but you got a feature film that's debuting this week as well. What was it like to step in front of the camera? I understand that you guys had these rules about making your film, in the sense that you and Paul were the main characters because you're cohabitating and it was safe for you guys to be in the same space. But I know you've done acting in the past. I know you've done some stage work. What was it like stepping back in front of the lens again?
It was a lot of fun. I mean, so I will say that, like, we hosted this screenwriting contest. We didn't select the winner. A panel of judges selected the winner, and there were scripts that I would not have had to act in, and none of those scripts got chosen, unfortunately for me. But I had a lot of fun. I mean, I'll be honest, like it seems like 5 years ago, given COVID months and how those work. But it kind of felt like making movies in college again. Like with Paul and I, we were playing the two leads, and we were doing all of the sound and camera work. We were editing it. We were setting everything up, lighting it, all of that. So when it came time to be in front of the camera, that's when we just got to have fun. And I kind of just leaned on him and trusted him to let me know, how it was going. And yeah, it was a blast.
Absolutely. So Cam, you also are a writer, director, actor. And there's a lot of that, I think, in this group. But I want to I want to ask you about your film and your character specifically, because you actually made this Facebook post, about the things that you didn't get to say during your director's interview. But I felt like a lot of that was prescient to your character. And so would you talk a little bit about the development of your character and why your character's struggle in particular was important to tell?
Yeah, for sure. So, the story is based off my life, so it is very personal to me. And so the same struggles you see with Ted is all things that I experienced in my community. When I moved down to New Orleans, it wasn't easy for me to fit in. I, didn't have any gay friends. I never was a part of a big gay scene. So, the only way I was able to meet like other gay people was through an app like Cruiser. And it can be very aggressive at times. It can be, very intimidating. And so I just kind of wanted to show, my own struggles, and also, a little bit about like myself at the end of the day, and like a little bit of my own insecurities too, because, at the end of the show, he gets rejected, and it's just something that has happened to me before. Like people will be so like just so brutally honest in mean ways behind the screen. And yeah, I did show that happened like on a date, but like the way people like love to, I don't know, put you down in a way, I feel like it's a lot easier for them to do on the app. And that's a lot of stuff that I've gotten. I have gotten catfished before. I have gotten rudely actually rejected in person. And that Lizzo line I said at the end, like that is something someone actually said to me. They were like, "Oh, you're chubby, but I love Lizzo." And it's just kind of like so offensive. And so I don't know, it just kind of shows that like also a lot of gay people love Lizzo and they love to like preach about her, but they're not doing the same things that they're practicing. And it's just, this gay culture can be a cruel world at times. Not always. I don't want to say it always is, but that's just kind of something I experienced, and I wanted to tell that with Inapplicable.
Absolutely. And to speak of, things that are stories that need to be told, and communities that don't get everything that they maybe deserve from the wider society, why don't you talk a little bit about your character and his struggle with his disability?
For sure. I mean, like with Ted and myself, I'm not. Well, the characters that you see portrayed in like the major releases, they're very stereotypical. I think nowadays you kind of are seeing a shift in that. But the past few years, if you see a gay character, he's like the sassy gay friend or like the gay jock. And I'm just kind of not put in any of those boxes. I'm a little weirdo who loves to paint my nails and throw on a wig. And I think I just wanted to show like a different gay character that was very true to myself. And I think it's definitely something different. And sorry, I kind of got lost thinking about that, but I just kind of, wanted to not be so stereotypical with what I was trying to say, because I don't put myself in any sort of box like that.
Yeah. Well, and I think you brought up a great point about, social media and the challenges that are going there. There are all those discussions that are happening. And one of those discussions certainly is around mental health. So Jerome, I would love to move over to you and your character in a way. What was it? I understand that you wrote the film too. And so why did you pick this subject as an actor? Did the desire to tell the story as an actor come first, or was it the script that came first? And how did you go about preparing for such an intense role?
I think the beauty in the role of Joseph is I have a lot of respect of what Dexter was saying on taking the director's hat off and all that stuff, which I really needed the director there, because I completely dove in on the writing aspect, not thinking of it that I was going to play it. And then once I did make the decision together with Anne that it would be nice that I would play the character, because I knew Joseph so well. And also because it was writing wise based on me having a different block between my siblings to really connect with them because they're so far away, but still focusing on the love that was between me and my little sister Sammy in the movie. So yeah, that's probably it.
And I understand that you guys had an incredibly intense shooting schedule. It was, as I understand, a 9-day shoot. What was it like having to kind of carry that weight of that character for that period of time for a short film in particular?
Well, the hardest part was having a kid on set, just because there's so many rules you have to abide by, so many times, restrictions, and all that sort of stuff. To where the hardest scene for me, not only because of the emotional level, but the final scene in the movie, the finale, there's nobody around me but the camera, and I have to envision on the other side of the camera the cops coming in, and spoiler alert, and Garrett Kruthoff playing my dad. There was nobody there. Even Sammy, because of time restrictions, couldn't be there right beside me. So me looking down and having to act opposite of her not being there was a great and amazing challenge that I hope I overcame. So,
yeah, it's a tough one. And to shift over to Aaron to talk about Eminent, this story is one that by the director's Topher Simon's discussion last night is the very beginning of something. There's not a traditional sort of resolution for the character going through the film. How was it acting in a role where you knew that that the characters weren't going to get kind of a solid ending? Was it a bunch of build up? Was there a challenge there for you as an actor in not having that resolution, or was it freeing?
I think it was more freeing than it was constricting, because I feel like the way that I played the role of Cam, it was more of just life, because in life you don't know what's going to happen next. So I had my role, and I had just the background of who this character was. But as far as it came to there being no resolution, I feel like it helped. It helped a lot, because I can play a role just almost as me. Like this, it's as if I became Cam. And so with me being Cam, I'm just going to do what I can to get to my family, and I'm going to get out of there, and whatever happens is what happens. So it was a freeing thing.
When you were brought onto the project, how much time did you have to prepare? And I understand that it was a relatively short shoot, 12 hours, something like that. Was it shot in order? So sorry, that's two questions. So it's, how were you brought onto the project? How much time do you have to prepare? And what was it like kind of having to go through the rise in intensity through the period of time on the film?
Well, I was brought onto the project really kind of early on as far as the project itself goes. I had a really good friend of mine who was part of it, and he was like, "Hey, he told Topher, I have a guy who's perfect for this role." And so they contacted me, and we were kind of in touch. And at that point, they started telling me about the character, and I said, "Yeah, I'm on board." So I started trying to get ideas of who this character is. So I kind of had a way to figure out who this person is and how he would react to certain things. And yeah, it was a really short role. I mean, a short shoot time. We shot it within 2 days, and it was a challenge, but at the same time, it was really a lot of fun to just go in, do everything that you needed to do, and to one of your questions, no, it was not shot it was not shot in order. So there were certain things that I wasn't really sure what was going on. They just said, "Okay, this is the scene. This is what we want you to do." So I was really lucky to be working with a group of people that really knew what they were doing, and really were super talented and had exactly what they needed. And I was just the stupid guy who just knew to do what the director said. So I felt like a puppet, but it's kind of, I had my own ideas of who this character is, but as the puppet of Topher, I mean, it ended up being I was just trying to be what they wanted me to perceive on screen. So yeah, it's all props to Topher and Ben. Those guys, they had it going on.
That's awesome. So I want to kind of broaden this discussion out and allow people to jump in. You know, one of the themes that seems to be running through all of these projects, and I know that there's not any kind of one film that's explicitly about COVID or any of that, but one of the themes that seems to be running through a lot of these films, particularly for the actor nominee films, is isolation and loneliness. And even in like Find Her, this family has kind of secluded itself out in the world. Did you feel, and I understand that even like for Escalante, that film was written, you know, long before, but there seems to be something that's striking with audience members about these, this loneliness or this desire to be, you know, found or to find what you're looking for. I wondered if you guys might be able to speak to that sentiment that people are feeling and whether or not it's something that maybe you injected into your character or maybe people are reading into it now that they have a perspective on the world that they do. So anyone can jump in.
Well, since you brought up Find Her, I'll be brief. The isolation aspect really was a choice, and we shot, and the whole thing happened before COVID. We actually shot the week before quarantine started. We actually, on our last day of shooting, turned on the radio and found out that this pandemic was happening. So it just happened to be coincidental that we were all out in the woods isolated. But the reason we really chose to do it isolated just because it was easy to do. You know, we didn't have to worry about extras. We didn't have to worry about locations. And I intentionally wrote something that could be shot in an isolation so that it would just be, you know, for a short film in a low budget, easier to do. And what's interesting to me is, and I mentioned it during the live stream, is there's a scene at the very end of the movie where there's a truck driver who picks up Penny's character, and there's an interior shot where he's turning his radio down as he sees her. And that's actually a live NPR broadcast talking about what countries are about to have to do. And you catch the words, countries need to isolate. And that was the original audio from that shot, which I thought was really unique because even though our movie was shot pre-COVID, there is that little nugget of pandemic that's captured into the film. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Does anyone else want to speak on kind of isolation? I mean, if I were to pick on somebody.
Sorry, let me mute that.
I'll the of our shoot and why it was even on set so isolated and on locations where there wasn't really a lot happening is because we really loved the intimacy of our crew as a whole that we had. It was all friends working on it together that I, met in college, which was like 6 months ago. I was still in college. So it was such a nice, tightly bonded group that it was nice to kind of keep that small. So the emotional scenes were just very, very comfortable to be in. So yeah, that was that.
Yes. Isolation. You finished, Jerome? Oh, okay. Yes. I guess like Dexter, we started shooting the week before it, when full blown pandemic happened. So we were kind of like we didn't really know what to do. We just noticed this thing was happening, and in Shreveport they started to get cases. So we were kind of like half safe and half not safe, because I think after we shot, 2 people actually got sick on set. But as far as the character was concerned, he was like in a forced isolation. He didn't want to be isolated, but he was in a situation where he was forced to be isolated from everything. And we shot the scene in a real jail that was that they weren't using at the time, but it was a real jail. So, and it was one of those jails that didn't have the electronic sliding doors; it had the old-fashioned keys. So when they actually, when we were shooting, when the door was closed and you felt not only isolation but the confinement of being in a situation where no matter what you wanted to do, you were forced to be in there by yourself. So as far as that was concerned, isolation, I think, helped me and helped me to feel exactly what this character would be going through, what I would be going through if this was happening in real life. So in my situation, isolation actually worked. I feel it worked to help me tell the story of this person.
Yeah, well, and that's exactly what I was hoping to get out of this conversation, was that discussion too about the characters. And for someone like you, Aaron, on Imminent, your character also has, is working late. There's the call about coming home and whether you've forgotten something to do. I mean, there's a tiny bit of commentary there too about, someone choosing to put themselves into a place where they're separating themselves, perhaps unintentionally, from like their loved ones. What was, for you, when you were having that conversation, with your wife on the phone, what was going through your mind as you were preparing for that conversation? Because, look, I'm guilty 100% of probably working more than I should and not spending that time at home. How are you able to draw on that?
Yeah, I think that as a married man that works, anybody that's been in that kind of situation can also resonate with that. Just working and then forgetting that you had something going on, or forgetting that you told your spouse at home or your girlfriend or whoever that you were going to do something. And so that's really the headspace that I had to get in, which wasn't difficult because like I think I may have done that the day before. Like I told my wife that I was gonna do that. So yeah, I just used that and it kind of it almost came naturally. But going back to the question that you were talking about before in terms of isolation, I think that people can really seriously resonate with this film Imminent, not only because of the whole isolation thing, but because of the feeling that it's the end of the world. You know what I mean? Because so much crap is going on in the world right now, with different wars happening and with the presidential debates, and just so much weird stuff is happening that you just sometimes feel like it's the end of the world. So I felt like this story can really resonate. It does really resonate with people. There may not be zombies, but it just sometimes it feels like that,
It does, and that's why I so appreciated that opening on rewatch. The opening scene is this. As we're all kind of going through these changes in our lives, we're trying to understand what's important to us, and for Garrett, I'd love for you to talk about your character's choice to isolate. He's chosen to isolate himself. And, obviously we have some characters trying to invade that kind of bat cave moment for your character. What was it like kind of getting in the headspace of someone who really wanted to be alone as maybe a form of self-flagellation or what have you?
Yeah, so the headspace for me is pretty easy, because I always say that in reality, I'm an introvert masquerading as an extrovert, and that I'm kind of a recluse. I'm not like super social. I have to kind of force myself to get out amongst the people, even pre-pandemic. So pandemic was kind of an excuse for me to isolate, and not have to worry about getting out and, away from my family. And so, the headspace was pretty easy, because I'm a lot like White Man and his kind of, I don't know about the self-loathing and all that he kind of goes through, but certainly that want and need and desire to sometimes just be alone. And I think we all can, appreciate that need. Probably less so now. We don't all want to be alone as much as we did before, because, some of us were forced, you know, to have that. So yeah, the headspace was easy, but it was a lot of just internal, you know, thinking about, for that character in particular, just all of his past transgressions and where exactly, you know, what's he doing out there? What's his, I have some, you know, thoughts of the end space and what his end goal was. And these guys come in and, you know, kind of stop him from doing that. So yeah, that's
Yeah, that's cool. And I have to say, if you didn't know, you know, Jeremy and Rex were kind of saying how much they enjoyed working with you, and that there was an alternate ending at some point.
yes,
That
yeah,
was asked of you, and how, you know, you were willing to give them what they needed, but in
right.
the end, they got where they needed to go, right?
Yeah. So yeah, they wanted an alternate ending, and they kind of sprung it up in the last moment. I had a very diva moment of trying to protect I think that's the other thing we do. As actors, we're always worried about the brand, and we're worried about, you know, what we want to do. And I'd kind of signed on for this, and they said, "We want you to do this," and I was like, well, "That's not really what, you know." So I kind of had that moment of like, but I said, "But you know what? I'll give it to you. I'm not happy, but I'm going to give it. I'm going to give you 1,000% of what you want." And you guys actually see it in the trailer. That's the alternate ending is the trailer that they use, a little behind the scenes red herring of that. So yeah, you can actually see the alternate ending in the trailer, and me falling face first into the mud and the creek bed. And yeah, it was actually a cool. It looked great, and it was cool. And I would have been in the end happy if they would have went with it. But I'm glad they chose the more open-ended him, because originally that's how I felt like him going to finish what he started. You know, man on a mission is kind of how that final scene was left.
Yeah. So Cam, returning to the concept of isolation and in vein with kind of, am I muted? No? Oh, no, here we go. You know, in terms of the self-isolation, you know, your character has fallen into this trap of the social media, and has kind of formed themselves around what other people think of them through the pictures in the profile or the messages that get sent. How much of the kind of couch potato, like pandemic swiping endlessly, played into the reshaping of the script? Because I understand that this was written some time ago, but were there any changes that your character had to kind of that were added based on what was going on in the world?
You know, not really as far as like the pandemic is concerned. I mean, there were things that changed in the script, but not for his character. But like kind of going off the, you know, isolation, loneliness theme. One thing about Ted is that he's his own worst enemy in this film, because I feel like he is a little bit delusional. I mean, he's going after Sebastian, who clearly says, you know, no femmes, but he's obviously a feminine gay man who is, you know, in a wig having brunch with his girlfriend, you know? So it's just kind of like, it just, and also just kind of going back to like my post today, I did say that writing this film was very therapeutic to me because it made me see my own mistakes that I did. And so just kind of like having that mirror and looking back, it was like, wow, you know, especially for Ted going for Sebastian, that was a sign he should have, you know, caught a long time ago. But he was a little blinded by the ads. I mean, Sebastian is a gorgeous man. And I think one thing, you know, Ted is, he wants so bad to like not be alone. He wants so bad to have someone, but like he's just like not putting himself out there in the right way. I mean, he's looking for love on a hookup app at the end of the day. And so it's just kind of like, is this really, like, especially like in the end when Christina's like, is this really what you're looking for? Is this really what you want? Just like, it just didn't like, I don't know. That's not the journey for Ted. Like, as everyone kind of, as I've said before, this is a web series, and like this is the first episode in that series, and like through the rest of it, he kind of finds himself and he finds his way. But this is just kind of like the very first moment of him like stepping out of his head in a way. And but I mean, at the very end, you see he gets another message from a guy, and he falls right back into the cycle of, the whole app world. And so yeah, I think he is very self-sabotaging in a way. He ends up hurting himself in the long run in that way.
Speaking of looking for love, I'd love to talk to Alex about his role in Double Date Night as someone who is, who certainly seems like you're interested in something and having a relationship with someone, but maybe not understanding how to get there. Is there any kind of personal experience that you can draw from kind of hitting and missing, or trying to make poutine for someone for their first date dinner?
Oh God, Chris, how long do you have? There's tons of personal experience. No, I think like, to be honest, at the top of the film, I don't know that he's really actively trying, like the fictional version of myself is actively trying to hook up or get dates or find love or whatever. But I think it's kind of one of those fun things that it's like Ben wrote an exaggerated version of me, and to just kind of lean into that, make a choice, play up the Canadianism. I've never tried to make poutine before. Paul actually did all the set and prop and food stuff, so he probably knows how to make poutine better than I do. Yeah, it was fun to kind of lean into that. I think we've all had experiences where we feel, not wanted, not, like you can't get a date, whatever. And yeah, there's tons of personal experience to draw on from that. But no, I think at the end of the day, like kind of playing off the isolation theme and to kind of go to a different question a little bit, this film for us was really therapeutic because it came at a time during COVID, during the isolation, during the quarantine, where we lost all our work as filmmakers. And we were like, this was like a very creative, fun thing to do to allow us to kind of create again, and kind of fill that void of not being able to make stuff at the current time. And so it was a project, honestly, that came at a perfect time and is not serious at all, but kind of filled the necessary void of doing creative work. I know that kind of jumped to a totally different question, but
it's right on track with what we were talking about before, and what an opportunity that I feel like everyone has had, not just you guys as people who are creating these characters and pieces of content, but what a joy for the people who are here to watch the films and to have something fresh and new and consistent, in their communities, especially those who are familiar with the Film Prize or festivals in general. It's great to have this level of content being produced. And I don't want to leave off Thomas here when we're talking about this isolation, and in this case, you talk about sacrifice, you talk about this choice that's made to kind of give up something. Where do you, I know that the timing of the film and everything was tight, but what were you drawing on to kind of bring that character to life, who's making those decisions?
Ooh, that's tough. I don't really, I guess it kind of goes back to what I said the first time about just being comfortable with the people that you're with, and kind of knowing the outcome of what I want it to look like and who I want the character to be. So it's not really that I drew from any specific place or time or person. It was, how can I make myself feel this way, look this way? And I gave it my best shot. But to talk about the quarantine stuff, we were fortunate because we were working on John Snyder's studio where we were quarantined. We had 50 people out there. But before that, when everybody came in, everybody had already been quarantined for months. It was such a relief and a blessing to everybody because everybody's been out of a job, everybody's been quarantined, and we pulled off a miracle to get these films done, and everybody came in. So it was really nice to see people getting out of their houses and being active and getting to work together again. Obviously, we followed all the safety protocols, testing every few days and masks and whatnot. But so not really related to the film, but that's, so many people were affected by what was going on and what we were doing at the time. So, yes, that's all I can say to to the
Yeah.
floor, because we were in a bubble.
Of course, and that I can't imagine with a triple header feature and squeezing a short film in there and having to do it all kind of closed off from everyone. That's rough stuff. But thank you for doing it, of course. We're going to kind of enter the final stages of our time together. But what we're going to do is go around and ask everybody what you're working on now or what's coming up next for you. And then I also, the very last thing we're going to do is a lightning round piece of advice for someone who is an aspiring or up and coming performer, and what advice you would drop on them. So first things first, we'll go through, tell us what you're working on next or now. Let's start with Jerome. Sorry, you're muted.
I'm still muted. That's the first. So I'm currently writing a musical, which is very exciting because I'm from a theater background. So I'm going to see how that goes. And acting wise, as all of my fellow actors know, it's always a game where you don't know what you could be doing next week, next month, next year. It's all guessing game. So writing wise, I'm trying to write a musical and see how that goes. So
fantastic, thank you, Aaron.
All right, let me unmute. Actually, this was the first project that I've worked on in like 4 years. I was doing acting a lot years ago, and I was doing this to really just get back in it and help some people out and just have fun. So I don't have any projects coming up, but I'm open to it. So so yeah, that's
well. You can pass out your card at the end of the show.
There you go.
Escalante, what are you working on anything right now, or do you have anything you're looking forward to?
Well, I just got off NCIS New Orleans. Last week. I just finished that. I'm shooting an episodic in Vegas on the 18th that week, and then I have something to shoot in Independence on the 24th. That's all I know of. That's the only thing that's like signed. I like to do more producing. That's my first really co-producing something. I've worked with other people on their projects, but I like to get more involved in producing, even though it's very strenuous trying to produce and all these gentlemen who write, which to me is the hardest thing for me, write, direct, produce, and act. I have no idea how you do it. It is, you have to have, the only way I could do it, I would have to have a great team, in which we did have a great team. But yeah, because directing is like, it's like cat wrangling. You have to make all these decisions and control all these people. And so I think I'll leave directing and writing alone, but I think producing, I like to get more into that.
Understood. Thank you so much. Dexter, what are you up to? What's next?
Well, as an actor, I'm not really sure. Again, I'm always just open to help any project that needs help. As a writer director, obviously I want to see how Find Her does, in other festivals around, and with the production company I work with Reese and Hannah Rourke, they have a couple of projects in the works that I'm going to be supporting in the future. And so just really gearing up and helping them, and whether that's in a directorial capacity or, assisting with writing and things like that. That's really kind of what I'm looking forward to at the moment.
Absolutely. Thank you. Alexander, what are you up to and what's next?
So right now we're actually in the middle of 2 virtual festivals, Prize Fest being one, and then Heartland Film Festival with our film Multabella, which I directed. It's a feature film that we shot over in Sicily last year, right before the pandemic hit Sicily, actually. And so that's going on. And then we're going to just try to continue the festival run with Multabella, and then trying to write as much as possible. In quarantine, Paul and I wrote a short film called Addie and the Lightning Bugs, and we've submitted that to a couple of screenwriting contests. And given, whatever the kind of COVID situation is, kind of early next year, I would love to shoot that.
Absolutely. What about you, Cam?
So I've talked about Inapplicable, the web series, enough, but I do have 6 episodes written and ready to go. But as you know, Chris, I submitted a whole different film for Film Prize this year, and it is actually the 4th American film that I wrote for the American X trilogy. So that might be my Film Prize next year, is that project.
That would be great. We'd love to see the conclusion to that series. Garrett, what about you?
So starting in November of 2019, I started working on Bryan Cranston's new series in New Orleans called Your Honor. It's going to be premiering on Showtime in December. We shut down in March. We were cross-boarding 3 episodes when we shut down. They're finally back. I go back towards the end of this month to finish up my episodes that were left kind of hanging pre-pandemic. So that's next to me to go down to New Orleans and finish Your Honor. And then like these guys, the pandemic was really helpful in that I haven't sat down to write in a long time because I haven't had time. And I didn't have any, I mean, it was such a beautiful thing to just sit down and write unimpeded for 2 weeks on, on a series that I'm kind of working on. So, yeah, so we'll see what happens. Of course, I'm always, teaching at the studio in between gigs, and we'll see what happens next.
Absolutely. Best of luck with that. Thomas, what about you?
So, yeah, we just wrapped a triple feature. That went amazing. And we're fortunate to have the studio that's completely isolated. So we're hoping to go back into production on our next slate of films in December. Acting wise, I'm going to continue to take classes and get better and audition,
Fantastic. All right, so guys, it's time for our lightning round. We're going to be giving a short piece of advice, sentence with a noun and an adjective. Give me that advice to that up and coming filmmaker. Let's start with Alexander.
The piece of advice I would like to give to anybody, actor, filmmaker, director, writer, is that rejection is 99.9% of the business. Don't take any of that personally. Keep pushing forward and just focusing on what's in your control and do the best that you can.
Thank you. Escalante, piece of advice.
As far as acting, just keep training. Speaking for me, because I started acting late in life, and that was the only thing, because I had a decent work ethic. The only other advice is surround yourself with good people, because you're going to need that support, because there are going to be times you can go months without even getting an audition. You're writing something and nobody likes it. You're trying to direct something and nobody wants to direct you. And the money is always the major problem, trying to somebody believe in you to fund something that you're doing. So training with acting and relationships with everything.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thomas.
So training would be number one, but since that's already covered, number two, if you want to get into it, reach out to filmmakers, people that are involved with the Louisiana Film Prize. Reach out to them. Hey, I want to do this. Can I audit your class? Do you have any advice? Or can I, and I'm telling you, the community is so loving and caring that they like to help. They like when people call them and do it. I mean, nobody's going to hurt your feelings. Just make the call.
Thank you. Cam.
I'm kind of the same as Alexander said. I just don't give up. There's been plenty of roles I didn't get. There's been plenty of times where I wanted to quit. But I mean, I just kept going, and I'm on a Best Actor panel. And I just think, don't give up at the end of the day and keep pushing.
Fantastic. Aaron.
I'd say don't neglect yourself. Be yourself. Be who you are. You can find bits of yourself in any role that may come up. So just be genuine. Be yourself. And if you're an actor or aspiring actor, there will be a role that suits you perfectly, or that you can bring yourself into perfectly. So just be genuine.
Awesome. Jerome.
I would say take risks. And besides that, love fuels everything. So if you truly love what you do, it's not even considered risky. You're just doing what you were meant to do. So.
Fantastic. Dexter.
The advice I would give is there's no amount of talent that can be substituted for going out and doing it. You know, you can sit in your room and think that, you know, you've got talent, you know, you can write, you can direct, you can act, but if you're not going out there and doing it and doing it and doing it, you're not learning. And be a team player, be someone that people want to work with, you know, and it's all about attitude. So just go out there and be willing to learn and be willing to communicate with the people around you, and you'll have a good time.
Awesome. Garrett, I've left you for last because you have an acting studio. So give us the piece of advice that no one else is giving.
So long before I opened an acting studio a few years ago, when people would come to me and say, how do I become an actor? I would say, join an acting studio, because there's a whole subculture of people out there that most people, unless you're in that culture with us, unless you're around filmmakers, around actors, people don't realize that exists, because people look and see Brad Pitt, Matthew McConaughey, you know, Angelina Jolie, and they think those are actors. But they don't understand there's a whole slew of us out there that make a living from being nothing but actors that you've never seen or never heard of. And we're out there in your community. They're out there in your community somewhere. And the best place to find them generally is to find an acting class. And what happens is, in that vein, relationships are built. And half of probably my resume has been built on relationships. The same producers, the same directors who call me in over and over again. And those all start somewhere. So find where that is in your community. Find where your actors are at, where your filmmakers are at, because, you know, they do start asking for, just like, you know, talking about the film prize. I have a lot of filmmakers that reach out to me for my students, and a lot of filmmakers that are in class and use students to make their films. So get out there, find out who those people are in your community, and just start asking questions and join. And my last very quick piece of advice to just kind of expand on what Dexter said was just be nice, be gracious, be nice to everybody that you meet on a set, whether it's the PAs, the caterers, the ADs, the directors. Be nice and treat everybody with respect. And people, you want to be the type of person that people want to work with.
Awesome. Thanks for taking us home on that. What I'm going to do now is bring us all up on screen, little Zoom wizardry here. And what we're going to do is end on a big Viva La Film Prize. So, whoops, hold on. That's not what I wanted. Come back. We're not done yet. Aha, there we are. Okay, so we're going to end on a big Viva La Film Prize on the count of 3. Everybody ready? All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Viva La Film Prize!
Thank you guys so much. Now we'll play the outro.